G'day folks, today we're looking at another rifle, one with quite an interesting history and has recently come this way. It's a 1917 dated Lithgow No.1 Mk III, and we'll have a bit of a look at this rifle and some of the features that it has now. For people familiar with the history of Australian military structure in the first decades of the 20th century, these stamps tell a bit of a story, so we'll have a bit of a look at some of them and see what we can find. The first one there is 2/18, so February 1918 when the rifle was accepted into military control, ownership. Below that we see CMF/5MD. Now when Australia became a nation in 1901, the responsibility for defence then rested with the Commonwealth. But not wanting to establish a big standing army, what they did was the 6 colonies which had become states, each of which had their own military forces, those states were separated into military districts. So 5MD refers to the state of Western Australia. I don't see that too often on rifles, and I myself am actually born in Western Australia. So that's a nice little thing for me. But anyway, HV refers to the fact that it's built and sighted for the Mark VII ammunition instead of the initial Mark VI. The number there, 6609, is a CMF or a military district administrative number attached to this rifle. It's different from the serial number, and you'll see that shortly when we look at the receiver. And then we see the Lithgow shield there, the AC with the kangaroo, and we see the Roman 3, which is of course because it's a Mark III, and we see the stock disc there which has a Lithgow stamp but nothing stamped into the disc itself. Looking there we see the Lithgow shield, which was a feature of these rifles pre-1926. Looking on the receiver there we see 5MD, again referring to the 5th military district of being Western Australia. We see 6609, which was the military district serial number, and we see 75059, which was the Lithgow factory number. Now we also see an H on the Knox form, which indicates that this is a heavy barrel, but more of that later. In 1916, the Mark III star pattern was approved without cut-off, but it was noted that production of these rifles may embody certain features such as the deletion of volley sights, the deletion of the windage adjustable rear sight components, striker lug modification, etc. But Australia, we do things differently here. So if you look at Aussie production, things aren't quite as simple as they seem. From 1913 to 1916, we made the Mark III with the long-range volley sights. 1916 to 18, they deleted the volley sights, kept the cut-off. 1918, we dropped the cut-off plate but kept the slot. 1918 to 22, we got rid of the slot. 1922-23, we put the slot back in. And 24 to 41 we put the cut-off plate back in. But in 1941 they stopped milling the slot, and that was that. So you can see all sorts of wacky combinations. Sometimes they'd mill the slot back in and put a cut-off plate and they'd get rid of the star, so they'd stamp through the star. But hey, we are Aussies. Pretty standard rear sight here. The rear sight protector ears have the circular section milled out, which was a production stage dropped on the English rifles, and it was dropped on Aussie rifles but later than this. This one still has the windage adjustment wheel there unpinned, so it can be moved to adjust the windage. Now this was a feature deleted with the Mark III star, but this particular rear sight may be a target shooting sight from the 50s. The band here has a crown over X over 31, and I'm pretty sure that that's an LSA, a London Small Arms manufactured band. Standard Aussie nose cap here, not matched to the rifle, don't know when that happened. Now it's pretty battered and bruised as you expect with Queensland maple stocked rifles, a softer timber than walnut, but that glow is still there, shining through the grime which will soon be cleaned. Now you can see here I've got a bit ahead of myself. I've started cleaning the varnish or the lacquer off the rifle, and that's something that we'll continue, cleaning the grime and cleaning the varnish off, giving it a good linseed oil treatment to return it to well, specs that one would expect. O.I. Bell 7th LH. This rifle was owned by a gentleman named Oscar Bell, who lived in Gundagai in New South Wales. He was a member of the interwar 7th Light Horse from Gundagai, which was a CMF part-time militia service, and Oscar was too old for World War II and too young for World War I. He was a member of the VDC, the Volunteer Defence Corps, Australia's Home Guard during the Second World War. Now, I mentioned the H on the Knox form before, which indicates that this is a heavy profile of barrel, manufactured by Lithgow. The profile is to that of the Longley rifles, but it's smelly length. 234 is the date, which shows, among other features, that this rifle was slightly out of the ordinary. Just in front of the safety there, you can see a slight vertical crease in the timber, which indicates that this rifle at one point had an aperture sight plate for target shooting. But in conjunction with, it's a bit hard to see here, there's an H just behind the cocking piece on the timber there, and the H and the aperture sight slight modification and the heavy barrel indicates that this particular rifle was a marksman rifle. Now, I've spoken about these before. The 1915 example from the video I did 18 years ago was a marksman rifle. In Australia, a few of these rifles were converted to marksman standard, heavy tube, ability to use aperture sights. They were declared obsolescent in 1944 when the HT snipers started coming off the line, and they were ordered to be returned for stripping down, either to convert into HTs or to provide parts. How this one got through, I don't know, but you kind of see a few of them around from time to time. So all in all, it's quite an interesting rifle. It'll be cleaned up and I will feature this rifle again soon, hopefully making some noise. And over there in the garden, we see Stella doing her best to ignore us. So thank you, folks. Well, Stella thought she would come and have a bit of a look. Stella! Stella! What do you reckon? Anyway, back to the rifle. So here we see the pre-1926 Lithgow stamp, and as is often seen, it's a bit unevenly stamped there. It's a bit thin in spots, but there you go. And it's a Mark III, not a Mark III star, even though the Mark III star was approved in 1916. Hang on. Stella. Oh, hello. Well, actually, I'm not sure that you're meant to be part of this. Now, we've got a friend here, Stella, who's come to say hello. Hey, Stella. Oh, that'd be right. Jump up, get in the middle and ignore me. You're a typical cat.